This video is a bit shorter than my other videos, but I'm going to say it's done. Requiem is out. Capcom is already celebrating over 7 million copies sold, and we've had all the time to process the story of Leon, Grace, and the fall of Raccoon City, but in the back of my mind, there's this one question that won't go away. So what happens now? So this is the first video where I'm not reacting to a game I just played, I'm just looking at the road ahead. So, to understand where Resident Evil is going, I think you just have to first look at Capcom's business strategy in itself. And it's pretty aggressive. In early 2026, there was a detailed insider report that leaked Capcom's internal roadmap. It suggested that the company plans to release a major Resident Evil title, either a mainline sequel or high-profile remake, so almost every single year, continuing through to 2030. But this isn't like wishful thinking. I think it tracks perfectly with what we've been seeing recently. We've had Village in 2021, the RE4 remake in 2023, and now Requiem in early 2026. It essentially turned one of gaming's most beloved horror series into a near annualized blockbuster machine. So I think for them is a strategy that clearly works financially, but I think for us, from the player's perspective, I think the gap between major titles isn't going to be the long, agonizing wait we're used to having with other AAA titles. So I think the next big thing might be just around the corner. So, of course, the question is, what about a 10th mainline entry? I mean, here's the thing about naming conventions with Resident Evil titles. Just because we played Resident Evil 9, Requiem, doesn't mean the next one will be RE10. Sometimes they just throw a curveball. And we do know a few things definitively. So Capcom, they've already confirmed that a new game in the series is in active development. But I think more importantly, the man leading the charge is a pretty familiar face, which is Koshi Nakanishi. And he was the director of Resident Evil 7, and that pulled the franchise back to its survival horror roots. And he also directed RE5 back in the day, so he's kind of seen both the action-heavy and the horror-focused era of the series. Nakanishi himself, he stated that he's focusing on survival horror first, which is music to the ears of old school fans. But the bigger rumor swirling around is the project might be an open world title. I think this alleged shift to a larger and more non-linear environment, this could explain kind of why development is taking a little bit longer. You can imagine a massive, fully explorable Raccoon City. I think that would be a pretty monumental change for the series. But the mainline sequel might not be the very next thing we play. The rumor mill is just all about certainty that the next major release could be a remake. And that isn't a surprise because Capcom has been on a big, remake streak. But there's been a lot of confusion about which one is next. So could it be a Resident Evil 5, right? But the the industry insiders with all of this is that there's a reliable track record, right, for known as Dusk Golem. This was a big wrench in this whole theory because it's been stated that an RE5 remake is not happening right now. Instead, it was claimed that the remake is for a title that starts with the letter C, and it ends with an Ode Veronica, as we all probably know. And that's huge because this was a big, ambitious game that's kind of bridging the classic and the modern eras. And it's a complex story, it's got challenging puzzles, and it would benefit massively from a modern touch. And once Code Veronica is done, the Capcom leaks suggest that maybe the train just keeps moving from there on. So I would say it appears that Resident Evil 0 remake is planned for a 2028 release. But there's a bit more, right? Because there's a whole full production underway for the original Resident Evil 1 in the style of modern remakes, but that's just a little, I'd say reportedly just a little way off. Now, not every project makes it out alive, and just like in the Spencer Mansion, there's still some skeletons, right, in Capcom's closets. I think the most painful part for me is the fate of Resident Evil Revelations 3. The leaks have confirmed that a third Revelations game was in full development, and this part of the franchise I love Revelations, right? I played 1 and 2, and I've always been addicted to them ever since I started playing it on the 3DS. But I'm wondering if they ever bring this fan favorite back. There is theories, there's some leaks where Rebecca Chambers, she's the lead for the mid-budget Nintendo Switch title, they're intending to bring her back, but I think it was ultimately cancelled internally, so it might be slower to return, who knows. Now what's with a holdup? I think theories that Capcom, they're actively avoiding the controversy. RE5 and RE6 are big, they're big like co-op action games. And reimagining them as modern survival horror titles, they would require a bit more gameplay and story overhaul. And you essentially at that point building like a brand new game from scratch. So it's a huge risk. Finally, I think the world of Resident Evil isn't limited to our consoles and PCs. The film franchise is getting another reboot, and this new movie, which is set for release in September, probably, is directed by Zach Cregger and the man behind the film Barbarian. I think this is worth paying attention to because Cregger isn't just a hired gun, he's an actual horror fan with a unique tense style. So he has stated that this adaptation, it will return to the series roots, and it's going to focus on traditional survival horror, right, rather than over-the-top action of the Mila Jovovich films. So apparently the film follows a new protagonist and is currently filming in Prague, which is turning the city into like a snow-covered raccoon city. And after a decade of films that felt more like, let's say, sci-fi actions, blockbusters, I think the potential of a genuinely scary, lore-accurate, Resident Evil movie sounds exciting, and I'm hoping it turns out well, right? But I think it's a wild card. But I will keep an eye on that one. For a final verdict on all this, I think this is the roadmap ahead. And the immediate feature probably looks like Code Veronica, then a gap, then Resident Evil 0, and eventually the mainline Resident Evil 10. I think we're going to enter an era where Resident Evil almost becomes a genre onto itself inside like Capcom's production schedule. And I'm a bit skeptical but curious at the same time if Capcom can maintain the same quality with such a rapid fire release schedule, but they have been doing a pretty good streak so far. Maybe we won't know until we see it, but for now, the franchise, it's healthier than it's been in decades, and whatever comes next, I'll be there. Maybe always ready to play it, but if you just want more Resident Evil content, maybe in the future, even though I do focus a lot on like the nostalgic and soul side of like, bizarre games and some indie art, but I do love the horror games as well. So let me know. I think you like the other videos too. So thanks for watching. Thank you.